Good morning and welcome back to the Sticks Plus Twine YouTube channel. My name is Eric and I am recording today in my guest room, which has become the knitting room in my home here in Toronto. New phone, so we'll see how this goes with the video. I'm kind of looking around to make sure everything's still reasonably in frame. Today's Halloween. It's the 31st of October and hence I have my orange Easy Peasy reading glasses on, which I bought on a trip to Copenhagen about a year ago, just to have for, you know, transportation knitting and stuff when I didn't want to like worry about losing my glasses, and they're great. So I don't know why I started with my glasses, but there you go. This episode isn't a typical one because this is going to be more about my Rhinebeck recap. I do have another episode planned, which will be coming in early November. So thank you to everybody for all of your wonderful, kind comments. I really, really appreciate it. I'm a little bit warm because the temperature's gone up in the city. It's pouring rain out and it's supposed to stop in time for trick-or-treating, but we'll see. I myself don't really do much for Halloween. Living in a condo, we don't get kids and such, so it's kind of like meh, but I love seeing all of the costumes on everybody else. So yeah, there's that. But I am wearing something new, and you'll notice that the collar band, I haven't reblocked this since I made it, but this is the Redford pullover. I finally finished it in time for Rhinebeck, and I'm thrilled about it. Couldn't be happier. It's a little bit big, but that's okay because I wanted to use it as a layering piece anyway, and it is knit in Brooklyn Tweed Loft in the faded quilt colorway. It was a bit of a labor of love because it is all stockinette and it is all knit flat and seamed. There are a lot of seams, but the end result is so worth it. So yeah, so that's if you saw any of my pictures on Instagram, which you can follow right here. I was wearing this on my first day of Rhinebeck. The second day of Rhinebeck, I was rocking my Rift pullover, which I still really, really love. So Rhinebeck, wow, what a whirlwind. I spent about a week in the Hudson Valley and spent it in a house with my wonderful friends that I've met and been able to spend some time with over the past couple of years. So Christina, who is Cozy Knitter, and her husband Steve, who is Mr. Cozy Knitter, Patricia from Paradise Island and her husband Radley, Connie from Chili Knits and her husband Danny. And then we we managed to convince Sandy from by the lakeside to suddenly just drive down. It took a FaceTime call with her in jammies and hair in a bun and the whole thing while we were eating breakfast, but we managed to do it, so we got her down as well. It was fun getting everything set up for the house and getting to sort of reacquaint ourselves with everybody, and it was a blast. It was really, really good. On the Saturday, of course, we went to Rhinebeck. On the Sunday, we went to Rhinebeck. Saturday night, we went to, Sandy and I went to the Jill Draper sale in Kingston. We did not do India Untangled or Needles Up this year, primarily because I had a really specific shopping agenda, and those were not on my list. I didn't want more hand-dyed yarn because I have more than enough, but I was looking for specific, actually I know Jill Draper is hand-dyed, but I was looking for specific things. So where do we start? I'm going to talk a little bit about a few knitting accessories first that I found really helpful, and then I'm going to get into what we purchased, or what I purchased, and what I plan on making with it. And that's pretty much going to be it for this episode. I do have one that's coming in November that I have already planned out that will be a lot more sort of my regular schedule and planning. So there's all of that. But you will notice that all of the acquisitions that I made are specific for projects. I had a plan going in, what I was looking for, and I didn't really go off script much. I did a little bit, but it's for an accessory. And you'll see what that is when I get there. So let's first talk about books, because I think that's a good place to start. Rhinebeck for me is all about inspiration and connection with community, and shopping is just sort of the ancillary activity. So I want to talk about first, in this book that I picked up, I have on Audible and I have a digital version of it, but I don't have a hard copy, and now I do. So the wonderful Clara Parks, of course, just a wonderful human being. You know, she's just lovely. Her writing style is magnificent. It makes me laugh. It makes me cry. You know, it made me want to like buy the movie. No, actually they should make a movie about her life. She's a fascinating woman. But she did inscribe it for me. But I mean, I'm not going to read the inscription because it's personal, but not, you know, overly personal. But I love Clara. Clara, I love you, girl. I love you. Anyway, it is hilarious. It's a really good book. If you've read Knitlandia, you'll love this one. It's a different tone. Last year she launched Stash of One's Own, which I was also fortunate enough to have her inscribed for me. So eventually I'll have the whole set. So thanks, Clara. That was awesome. Also, while I was there in the same booth, different day, I picked up another book from my friend Emily Foden, Knits About Winter. And this has been released by the Pom Pom Press. You know, the wonderful ladies behind Pom Pom. And Emily, her aesthetic in this is just so evident. I mean, the photography is gorgeous. The models are Sachiko and Kiyomi Bergen, who are also wonderful designers in their own right. And yeah, there's a lot of feminine things in here, but I think there's a lot of things too that are able to be adapted for men as well. And very helpful things like interchangeable mitten liners. Hello, who doesn't want those? In Emily's yarn, which y'all know I'm a huge fan of. So anyway, I picked that up. She was signing books at the Merit Book Stand. So I was able to have her sign this for me. And yeah, I look forward to seeing Emily maybe this winter. I've already warned her that I plan on driving up to visit her in the dead of winter because her shop and studio is the coziest place, I think, on the planet. So there's that. I also, not at Rhinebeck, but came whilst I was at Rhinebeck, got the latest issue of Lina magazine, which I'm really a fan of. Again, it's primarily female focused, but it's more than just a knitting magazine. It's a lifestyle magazine in a lot of ways too. So I really enjoy it. I've got all their issues so far. And yeah, so that was it for sort of book acquisitions whilst I was at Rhinebeck. But one thing I did buy before Rhinebeck, of course, the weekend before, I went to the grand opening of the Knitting Loft here in Toronto, which was outstanding. It was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. And I picked up whilst I was there from the people at Lina magazine, the My Knitting Notes notebook. I've been searching for a place or a way to sort of record my knitting that's outside of Ravelry, because I find Ravelry really, for me, although it's really easy to use, I don't always think to use it. And specifically not for projects. So I picked this up, and what I have been doing, I'm going to try and find a good example. I, of course, record my projects in it. You know, it's the standard, like, what yarn did you use? How many skeins did you use? All that sort of stuff. And then there's a page to write notes, and then there's 2 blank pages after every project. And what I do is I put in the yarn label and a sample of the yarn as well. And I know this book is going to end up like this by the time it's done, but that's kind of what I want out of a knitting sort of journal. There's graph paper in the back, there's needle equivalencies, there's purchasing information, you know, where you purchase things. So I really like it. It's very lightweight. I think they selected really good paper for it. So that's all the paperwork. The acquisitions going forward from here are kind of out of order because I'm just going to pick them up as I have them around me. So, and I keep realizing I turned the camera, it's actually opposite to the way I normally have it, so I keep looking at the wrong side, so I'll try and focus on that. I'm going to start with the little stuff first. We managed to run into the wonderful ladies of Plucky Knitter while we were running around, and my friend Michelle Wong was there, had a good catch up with her. And they were handing out little like taster samples of Plucky. This one is Morticia, and this one is Sketch. And this is their new Cormo base. I'm really looking forward to trying that out. It's not going to focus because it's focusing on me, and I can't tell if it's focused, but it's really nice and bouncy. It's very round, so you know it's going to have great stitch definition, and I love Cormo. I have a full sweater's quantities worth to get through at some point. But those were kind of fun. And then Jen, who is yarn therapist, was so kind to gift me a wonderful, she does sweater yokes all in one, that you use sort of her recipe for a sweater, and then you just add in the rest of the body and the sleeves. And it's a gradient, which I'm trying to find a way to show you that. That's the gradient there. So it's kind of got some grays and in different tones. And this is superwash merino worsted. Start at the center, she says. And I have a colleague who is having a baby boy in November. So I will try, this is for sort of a newborn size. She makes some different sizes. So I'm going to try and whip that together real quick for her. So I picked that up. And where to start on the rest of the stuff. Today is just water. I'm feeling dehydrated, so it's just water. I want to save those for later. That's a non-Rhinebeck purchase. Okay, let's start with this. One of the things that we really were looking for was the Harrisville Booth on the opening, because they had promised that they were going to have plum waxed canvas bags, their new release. And although I didn't want the plum, I did want a camo bag, because when I was visiting with Vera Valimaki and Johi Locatelli in Toronto when they were visiting, Vera had one, and I just kind of fell in love with the camo. I have a natural canvas waxed one, which I love too, but I kind of wanted this one. So we made a plan that our very first destination, right out of the gate, we got there early, we got in the queue early, we were, I know, first 50 people in line, and Steve, Mr. Cozy Knitter, like beelined it to the Harrisville booth to make sure that we were able to pick up some of those. But I also had him pick me up the camo version, which is full of a project at the moment, which I'll show you. I would normally not go for camo, it's not really my style so much, but I really loved this. And it inspired the next project I'm going to show you, which is actually now a work in progress, which I picked up from the Harrisville booth because they sell Brooklyn tweed at Rhinebeck. And I picked up 4 skeins, 2 of each of these colors, these 2 colors together. This is the new Yellowstone colorway from Brooklyn tweed. It's green and yellow and olive, and I just kind of love it. And I also picked up Foothills, which is kind of like the opposite antithetical color to this one. I love how they work together. And so I picked up 4 of these for a very specific project, which was on my list. I didn't know what colors I was going to get, but I did know I was going to get loft. And it is for, I just want to try and untangle these a little bit because it's color work and y'all know how that goes. Tangle, 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 there we go. This is the Judoka Cowl, which doesn't look like much at the moment, to be honest. There we go. Well, maybe that's going to work better this way. Sorry. So it is a tessellated cross pattern, and because it's, kind of, color work that hasn't been blocked, it's hard to sort of see the pattern there. Maybe that's a better sort of view. And it is amazingly squishy, and you basically build this like long tube, and then you fold it in half, and you do 2 color Kitchener to graft it all together, which I've never done. That's going to be interesting. I'll tell you that much. But I'm, ready to give it a go. And one thing I'm going to talk about this, it's basically a 3-stitch, 3-stitch, 9-stitch repeating pattern that just changes every 4 rounds. So it's pretty straightforward. The floats on the back kind of give you an indication of how long some of these stitches are on the 9-stitch float. But I will say this, normally in color work you would catch your floats, and you would make sure that you wouldn't necessarily go maybe every 5 stitches you want to catch a float. But because this is all going to get turned together and grafted, all of the floats are going to be inside. You're never going to see them. So rather than trying to catch all these floats and sort of, it doesn't slow down my knitting, but it's a bit of a pain in the ass. So I'm saying ass. That's about as much language as you'll get out of me today. But I figured there's no point in trying to catch them all and worry about it because they're never going to be shown. So I'm just whizzing around on this thing. I'm about 2/3 done. It doesn't quite come out as big as I thought it would, but I know loft plumps a lot in the blocking. So I'm not too worried about it. It's going to be super, super warm and cozy living down here by the lake. The wind is pretty intense at times. So I figured that'll be really, really nice. The Coco Knits neutral color stitch stoppers. I have 2 sets of the colored ones, but now I kind of like the neutrals as well. And I'm loving this project. It is slightly monotonous. It's good TV knitting, but it is slightly monotonous because it's just, once you've got the first round of the color shift in place, you do another like 3 rounds of the same thing. You just sort of go round and round and round. But I have some other projects that I'm going to be casting on likely later today, which I will show you closer to the end. So that's that one. It actually looks bigger on camera than I think it really is. But I love how the colors are playing out together. And I will say, I don't know if it's this batch of Loft or what, but it feels a lot softer than I remember Loft being. Like even this sweater being in Loft, now that it's blocked, is lovely. But without being blocked, it feels just as soft. So I have high hopes for this, for sort of a next to skin cowl. The next thing I sort of picked up, and I was on a bit of a mission to check out, were the Indian Lake hexagonal hand-carved needles. Now, I will say, for those of you who are faint of heart, these are not cheap. They are really nice. They're very, very lovely wood-carved needles. This is the, what is this one, maple? This is maple, and this is walnut. And I got them in a 5, which I think that's 5. Yeah, 5, which is 3.75 millimeter. And this I think should be an 8, which is a 5 millimeter. Yes, good, perfect. And I bought 3 cords to go with them, so I have some lengths to choose from. Their fixed circulars are a little bit less expensive, I think, but the full interchangeable set was quite expensive, and I already spent quite a bit of money, so I didn't want to buy the whole one, and what if you don't like it, right? So they did say that as you work with, especially with the walnut, it's a little bit sticky. The drag on the needle is pretty significant until you've worked with natural wools for quite a while, and then the natural lanolin sort of helps the needle gain some slickness. Which is great. I did a yarn tasting there. They had all of them set up, and I kind of knew what I was looking for. But they did say that if you buy interchangeable sets, if you do go to buy the set, interchangeable components, if you go to buy the set later, then you can, they'll credit you back the purchase price of these. So really, if I like them, I can go ahead and just buy the rest of the set to complete. Anyway, love those. I don't even want to say how much I spent on them, but they were more than $100, which is way more than I would spend on just a couple of needles. But I also believe in supporting makers and knowing that they're handmade. You know what? It's worth it to me. And it's a memory, and it's something I'll use for a long time. I hear the customer service is great. The salesperson I was speaking to basically said if something happens, if it breaks, if anything happens there, just call them, don't panic, and they'll replace it. So, perfect. That's those. Okay. Let's talk Jill Draper. There's a lot. You may, if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen a picture where I kind of went a bit insanely piggy on Jill Draper, but I had a reason and a mission. So I had planned on buying at least one sweater's quantity, and I was planning on buying it from one yarn maker that the color online was what I wanted, but in person wasn't quite what I was looking for. So I didn't end up buying that one. But because I went to Jill Draper, I sort of had the budget that I'd set aside for that sweater's quantity to spend. And to be honest, I spent not that much more, maybe $100 more on that than I meant to. But I got enough to complete one project's full sweater and another full sweater's quantity. So I feel pretty good about it. And Jill Draper is hard to get. I know she's just moved on to her own e-commerce platform, but there's nothing like seeing it in person. So in this basket fun, hopefully nothing falls out, the basket I also bought at Rhinebeck, it was amazing. I sort of hunted with Patricia from Paradise Island for quite a while to find one, and I love the natural look. And so these will end up staying in this basket. So if you remember last year, if you are so inclined to go back if you haven't watched it before, or if you remember from other episodes, I last year bought myself a yarn baby. This is an Empire skein. It's like 1,280 yards of Aran weight Rambouillet. This is the citrine color. And I had always bought it as just a sculptural object because, I mean, look at it. It's just amazing. I had never intended to actually knit with it. I figure as sculpture goes, I think it was $150 last year. I think they're 160 this year. These are all in US dollars, by the way. It was worth it, right? Where else are you going to find like an amazing sculpture, like a long hair in there somehow? But I wasn't planning on knitting with it. And then I was so lucky to have been sent, I'm looking at the wrong side again, I'm sorry. I was sent the Strange Brew collection from Tin Can Knits when it was released, and I love the idea. And I've got already another couple of sweaters, yoked sweaters in mind, and I've already got the yarn for. But there's this amazing pattern called Marshland that I just love, and I thought, ooh, this would make a really nice marshland because it calls for Aran weight. So I kind of went on Jill's website and picked out the colors that I wanted to go with it. And so I'll show you those first. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4. There we go. Okay. So now you can sort of see this is the color palette for the sweater. The citrine will be the body, and then I've got 4 colors to sort of go with. And I wanted this one because the citrine is such a bright color, I wanted something that was going to help sort of neutralize it slightly, because the yoke actually starts quite low down and goes up to the neckline. So I bought 2 blues and 2 grays to go with it. This is Robin's Egg Blue, which is amazing. And all of her yarns are super bouncy and squishy, and I want a sweater so bad out of this, and I want it now. This one is Sapphire. Yes, it is Sapphire. This is Lunar and Charred Coal, which I originally wasn't planning on doing Lunar and Charred Coal in the same one, but I just love that these feel like tonal variations of one another that will help sort of tone down some of the vibrancy of the citrine. So that one is Sweater 1. But I couldn't stop there. No. When you're shopping at Jill Draper, you shop and you shop now, because you never know when it's going to come back. And of course you get into the whole wool piggery, and because I hadn't bought this other sweaters quantity, I bought another one. And I'm going to do exactly the same sweater, but in another colorway, because I love it that much. So let's start with that one. This time, the body will be Sapphire, which is, yes, another yarn baby. So I now have 2 yarn babies. They're not twins, they're fraternal twins. And the colors I chose to go with this are different, but somewhat, there's one that's the same. So you'll recognize Charred Coal again. And I got a lighter blue. Again, this one is called Pale Blue Dot, which I also really love. These 2 colors together are gorgeous. You know I love some yellow, so this one is called California Poppy. Look at that color. Isn't that awesome? So these 2 together would also go amazing. And then I added in, it's kind of a tealy greeny blue, and it's not going to come out. This is one of these colors that on screen never works out, but this one's called Aegean. So now, Sweater 2, gosh, sorry, that's a lot to manhandle here. Oh, there we go. Sweater 2 is going to look like this. So body will be Sapphire, and then we've got from, I don't know if it's left to right or right to left on your side, I've got Aegean, California Poppy, Pale Blue Dot, and Charred Coal together. That is going to be a lot of good knitting. And remember those needles I just talked about? Yeah, I bought them specifically to make the Marshland sweater, because if I'm going to spend this kind of time and money in investing in 2 full sweaters, yes, for me, I wanted good needles to work with it, so I thought that would be fun. So that's what I did. That's Jill Draper. That was a lot. It was a lot. So that's pretty much, I think, I'm looking around. That's pretty much everything I bought at Rhinebeck. I did make in total 7 Target runs, which is insane, I know, but for Americans that don't know, Target launched in Canada and then collapsed real quick. I think they don't even know if they lasted 12 months. So anytime you hear a Canadian going, oh, I did a Target run, it's a thing. It's a thing. So I bought a whole bunch of stuff for the house. I bought some clothes. I bought some like kitchen stuff. So I spent a lot of money on there too. The back of the car driving back for Rhinebeck was almost comical. It was crazy. I think that's it for Rhinebeck purchases. So let me talk a little bit about what the experience was like. It was actually, for the first time, this is my 3rd year in a row going, and for anyone who's asking, I'm not going next year. I'm going to be traveling elsewhere next year. So my FOMO is already building, but it is what it is. All that to say that it was bittersweet in that I knew I wasn't coming back, so I wanted to sort of give myself permission to just enjoy an experience. So, I didn't see everything, but I did get to see some sheep judging, which was really cool. I got to hang out and talk to so many people at the podcaster meetup. People, both friends that I've known for years and people that I just met, which was amazing. One standout, which is hilarious, is Denise, who is Earth Tones Girl. We run into each other at Vogue Knitting in New York, and we run into each other at Rhinebeck all the time. And it's always just like, she makes my heart smile when I see her, because I just know how amazing she is. But I saw, all the usual suspects, like Mina from Knitting Expat, and Kristen from Woolenvine, and Laura from Jinx Handmade? I think it's Handmade now. Amy Beth from Fat Squirrel, and Nicole from, oh gosh, what the hell is her name? Nicole, she's Nicole. And Selma and Kate from Hawthorne Cottage in Ireland. The funny thing is, when she was flying over to Canada, she was actually on my partner Sebastian's flight. And so it was just sort of a fun round trip for her, that it was like, oh, so anyway, it was funny. I got to meet Aiden from Knitting Monk, which I really, really liked meeting him. It was, I love his aesthetic. I love what he does. I love how calm, cool, and collected he seems to be, even when, some of the projects he takes on are really quite challenging. But I love what he's doing. I had a great chat with him. Gosh, like I'm just thinking back, it was amazing. The podcaster meetup was, again, always a bit overwhelming at the same time as it is amazing, because I would love to just spend time talking to everybody, but there's always somebody looking to take a picture or have a quick chat, and I love that. So I hope I got to spend as much time as hopefully as I could with each of you. But it was fun. I really enjoyed it. It sort of fills my well of inspiration and community for another year, which isn't to say I'm not going to be doing any knitting events. I will be. I'll talk about those in a little bit as well. But it was so heartwarming. I did not have to stand in a queue to get an apple cider donut, because Connie and Danny had bought a whole bunch for the house, so I had them when I got home, which was nice. But we ate and we knit, and we had fires in the evening in the fireplace, and it was cold enough that we wanted to have fires, and hot apple cider, and more cups of coffee and tea than I can count. It was just amazing. Patricia outdid herself with cooking dinner. Christina made a couple of batches actually of cinnamon rolls, which was awesome. Danny did a barbecue. It was just such a fun collaborative time that I just loved. One of the highlights, I think, for me was actually watching the sheep judging, because I was visiting with Kathy, who is a friend of Caleb, who is close to Amish on Instagram, and they know sheep. I don't know anything about sheep. I don't know from sheep, but it was kind of cool to see their perspective on what it was that they were able to identify. And I just went with, oh, I like that one. I like that one. I wasn't always wrong, which was fun, but it was kind of cool. It was kind of a different side of Rhinebeck that you don't just see, because it's not just a shopping event. So yeah, so that's my sort of recap of Rhinebeck. Quick recap on works in progress. My starting point shawl, I just have the little side panels left to do, so I'll be showing that in the next episode, I think. Hopefully I'll have that done. I started another shawl that's on my list of projects I want to complete this year. So I have quite a few new works in progress. But I'm really finding that I'm not a single task knitter. I like to do other things whilst I'm knitting, and I also like to have multiple projects to work on, because sometimes I just get to the point where, I just need to just put that down for a bit. I think the secret for me is to not put them too far out of reach, because then I forget about them. And in that orange bag is my Leaves of Grass shawl by Jared Flood that I still need to finish. I plan on getting that done this year because I really, really want that one. So there we go. So new projects, that's a great segue. One project that I plan on casting on probably today, because I need sometimes it's just even the colors. I tend to work in a color palette that is very neat. It's grays, it's yellows, it's light blues, it's browns, it's, traditionally male colors. But one of the colors I picked up on a former update from Primrose Yarns, who is my wonderful friend Kelsey. I picked up the yarn to make the Icy Spring sweater by Judoka Cowl for my mother-in-law, and I gave her a choice of, I think, 2 or 3 different pullovers that I thought she might like. She picked this one, and the yarn for this sample, she actually, like most non-knitters, they see a picture of it and they think, oh, I have to have it in that. So I couldn't find something that was exactly like this. But I did find some stuff on Kelsey. I really wanted to have a project on some of Kelsey's yarns. So I sent her some colors to pick from. And she picked this craziness, which is... Whoops. Oh. Okay. That was hilarious. Yarn down. Yarn down. Let's try that again. I have more. Those are on the floor, but it's okay. The floor is clean. This craziness is called Fire Meet Gasoline, which is named after my favorite Sia song of all time. Well, no, I think there's a couple more, but it's one of my favorites. And it is this super bright, vibrant pink into red. There's burnt orange and black and navy and purple and even splashes of hot pink in it. So you can imagine this combo of this yarn and this pattern is going to be spicy. And it's very different from what I normally would do. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. So I think that's sort of my deal with gift knitting, is picking colors and palettes that aren't normally for me, but getting the chance to work with some great things that, I wouldn't necessarily want to wear. Like, let's face it, I could pull this off if I really wanted to, but it's not in my wheelhouse. It's not in my comfort zone, but it is in my knitter's comfort zone. So I will probably be casting that on later today, because it is a horrible Halloween day out there. It is, I'm looking outside over the city, and it is dreary and gray and cloudy. And don't we all need just a little bit of pink sometimes? So that one I'm going to be casting on. Just because I feel like once I get past the sort of initial construction stages, it'll be really good just TV knitting, which I'm looking forward to. My mother-in-law is coming for Christmas this year, so I'm hoping I can have it done for her in time. I really want to have it done for her for Christmas. So there's that. What else? I'm doing this kind of on the fly, and I have no show notes today. I will return to like a normal structure. But you know what? I just felt like I needed to get one done today. I know what I wanted to talk about. 2 things. Talking about structure. I had promised you guys that I was going to talk a little bit about how I organize my patterns, because I do like a printed pattern. As much as I love working from an iPad, I find that for me, I like having a printed one so that I don't always have to have, my iPad Pro out. Or if I'm on transit and I need to refer to something, I don't like to have to juggle too many things. And I find paper, if I drop this on the floor somewhere, I don't care. But what I do with them is I put them in a binder. Okay, no big magic there. I have dividers for all of the pattern types. So I've got like There's hats, mittens, wraps, which would be shawls for most people, but there's that. Socks, sweaters, and home is the last category. But one of the things that I wanted to show you is what I do with my swatches. So the swatch will fit right in with the pattern. And if I don't plan on making the pattern right away, that's okay, because sometimes I just want to swatch. Sometimes I feel like I want to be ready for it. My gauge has not changed significantly. So what I do is I label the swatch with the project, who's the designer, what needle size I used, and what yarn I used. So I know that I can go back in, and it sort of forms a nice little library after the fact. And this way I feel like if I want to return to a project, or if I want to make another copy of it, not of the pattern, but another version of the pattern, I have it all neatly tucked away. Eventually, I know I will have to add multiple binders, but that's okay because it's so organized now that I've got it all ready to go. I also put all of the spare, sorry, I'm just flipping things, all of the spare plastic sleeves in the back, so I always know where they are. I can always grab one. In fact, I just printed this one out and put it in today. I also find it really helpful to go through and highlight all of the stitch counts and instructions for the size that I'm knitting in there, so I always know what it is that I made and who it was for. So that's how I'm organizing that. So lastly, I just want to talk about some sort of, now that Rhinebeck is done, which I have to say, I'm calling Rhinebeck the Knitter's New Year, because truly it kicks off this season. Maybe not so much outside of North America, but it definitely does, I think, in North America. It's if you are a capital K knitter, where it is, your passion, not just a hobby, I feel like Rhinebeck is your jam. And so as part of that, so I've now attended Rhinebeck. I will be attending Vogue Knitting Live in New York. I'm not really taking any classes this time, but I do have some other stuff coming up for Vogue that I think will be interesting that I want to talk to you guys about in a future episode. But there'll be that. I am not teaching, so don't get too excited. Because what would I teach anyway? I've only been knitting for like 4 years. But anyway, so there's Vogue coming, and then there is I believe it's the beginning of March, my local yarn shop, Spin Me a Yarn, is actually putting on a knitting cruise in the Caribbean. It's only a short one. It's only like a 4-day cruise. So the price is actually really reasonable. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to go on that. If you want more information, just look up Spin Me a Yarn in Toronto, and the information on the website. Contact the store and they'll get you all the information. The deadline for signing up is somewhat rapidly approaching. It's in about 2 weeks. But it's such an inexpensive cruise. As far as I know, I will be going. I'm not 100% sure yet, just because I need to check in with sort of our travel schedules and stuff and make sure that we can make it happen. But if you're interested in a sampler cruise with a bunch of knitters, check it out. I think you might enjoy it. So there's that. And up until the end of next year, I don't think I'm going to Knit City. We've got other travel plans booked for September into October, and it kind of overlaps both Knit City and Rhinebeck next year, so I'm not going to be able to do both of those, which is going to kill me. It's going to kill me, but you never know. It's the year afterwards, I obviously will be back to my normal sort of schedule of attendance, but there you go. So that's it, I think, for this week. If you have stayed on to this, long, this is actually, it's not too bad. It's 40 minutes, which is good. I didn't want to keep it much longer than that. I'm going to put some video of the trip right after I conclude this. So hopefully you enjoy that. And until I speak to you next time, happy knitting, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.
shoe there. It'll chew your shoe.
Mmm.